Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, your co-host, Shaq. We're going to be talking UFC Boise, Junior Dos Santos versus Blagoy Ivanov. And Shaq, it's going down this Saturday, UFC in Boise, and it's a pretty stacked card, my man.
Yeah, from top to bottom, a lot of good fights going on, a lot of guys making their returns, a lot of people that are on that chopping block as well, so it's going to be a great card.
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously, we can talk about how Max Bet season is going down this weekend, but we got to talk about the important news, my man, because Brendan Schaub broke the internet yesterday, Shaq, and apparently a lot of people didn't know what Esquibel brothers are, but let's just put it this way. Apparently, my boy Dana White's been sharing prized possession with Brendan Schaub all along, huh?
Yeah, but we all knew this at the end of the day. We know that my boy Dana likes to hang out with his female employees from time to time. So, it wasn't shocking. But, my boy Brendan Schaub, had to be the little pussy that he is and snitch on everyone. This kind of reminds me of when Mike Perry snitched on my boy Jeremy for that situation with this girl. But, Schaub should have kept it. Schaub should have kept it under, as a guy code always says, when things are along those sides, you just stay shut. But, hey, it is what it is. It was fucking hilarious, But at the end of the day, my boy Coach Edmond hit it first, just like my boy Ray J hit Kim K first. So, Coach Edmond hit it first. He's number one.
So, you think Perry was in the wrong? I mean, Jeremy went up to his girl.
But, 100%. You two are both fighters, so you handle it between you. But don't go on the fucking internet, Jeremy tried to fucking hit on my girl, and then y'all are fighting on the same card, and you're like, fuck Jeremy Stevens.
Yeah, I mean, look. It was hilarious what Brendan Schaub said. I'm glad he said it just because he broke the internet. And now I want to see Dana White go below the belt. I want to see him air out dirty laundry. I want to see him fucking cross every single line. But Brendan should have realistically left that little part out. He could have said the whole thing about, Frank and Lorenzo held your hand and this and that. Okay, cool, whatever. Even though, between you and me, Dana's a huge part of the UFC. But that's fine. Say all that shit. No big deal. But he definitely crossed the line. But I love this shit. I love controversy. Let's fucking keep this shit going. So I hope Dana comes out. I want to see this go to the championship distance, man.
I think my boy Dana's going to keep his mouth shut before Schaub. Schaub already told him last warning. So
what do you think these secrets Schaub knows about? What do you think Schaub will reveal if Dana goes to the next level?
My boy Dana, tells some of the girls to come up to the Copacabana suite on fight week. And, it is what it is.
There's my boy Dana is really running this shit, huh?
Sean gets the leftovers. And
now I'm excited to see where the story develops. I hope they take it to the championship rounds, Shaq. So let's break down this card start to finish. Because first up in the women's division, we got Jodie Esquibel. She's minus 130. The comeback on Jessica Aguilar is plus 110. Now, they were originally supposed to fight last month. Jessica Aguilar pulled out the day of the fight. Now they're fighting again, and who you got?
I got Jodie Esquibel once again. I think Aguilar's from the Stone Age of the strawweight division, back when girls like Barb Ponchak were relevant, back when girls like Angela Magana were relevant. She's from the Stone Age of the female MMA, and her game hasn't developed. She's about 34, 35 years old. She's not improving at all. No head movement. She's a tough Mexican fighter, but that's all she's got. She's just tough, She hit those single legs on Courtney Casey, and what'd she do? She got beat while Courtney Casey was on bottom. And by the way, Courtney Casey has zero takedown defense, as we've seen from all her UFC fights. And, a lot of people are sleeping on my girl Jodie in this spot. I feel like the line should be a little bit wider. I feel like even though Jodie's got an ugly record, if you really, pay attention to that record, you go and watch her fight against Ashley Yoder on Tough, you would see that she got completely robbed. And then, her fight with Carolina, she went in there 3 rounds and, held her own. Of course she's going to lose to Carolina, but hey, at least she went 3 rounds. She got that experience in Carolina's hometown, and there's no shame in that. Now she's getting a step down in competition. This is a girl that handles her business, when she's supposed to handle her business. We know that she's going to lose to the Grassos, the Carolinas, the things of that nature. But, when she's supposed to get the win, like when she's fighting Deanna Bennett, I mean, she took care of business in that fight. Deanna Bennett's a tough female fighter for a lot of these girls, and she's way bigger than Jodie too. So I think Jodie's going to come out here, use her movement, use her angles, use that pro boxing experience, the teeps to the body, start up at the body, then come up to the head and just, outpoint Jessica Aguilar 30-27 on all 3 cards. I think she's going to stuff the takedowns. We've seen her stuff the takedowns several times against Deanna Bennett and Ashley Yoder. So, I got Jodie Esquibel. I don't think Aguilar's making any improvements. She's coming off that, where she got that weight cut herpes a month ago. So, she's going to have to do another one of those weight cuts. So, I got Jodie Esquibel.
Yeah, when Jessica Aguilar was in her prime, she was known for being a tough Mexican fighter. She was always known for overcoming, her athletic deficits by being so tough. But now she can't even do that anymore, Shaq. I mean, when you're going up against Courtney Casey, and, we've called Courtney Casey a habitual loser for a long time, and Courtney Casey tries her best to throw that fight away. Courtney Casey gets taken down 4 times. Courtney Casey is off her back and still wins the fight 30-27 on all 3 judges' scorecards, Shaq. That, to me, shows that you don't have the ability to win anymore. And, obviously all the rumors came out that, she was using steroids in her prime. But her prime, I mean, even if she wasn't using steroids, which between you and me she was, but even if she wasn't, her prime was against Megumi Fuji and Angela Magana, and it's just a different era now. So I got Jodie Esquibel to get this win as well. Now next up in the men's flyweight division, we got Elias Garcia. He's -140. The comeback on Mark De La Rosa is +120. Now I know last week Stephen Ocho Peterson, he was talking some shit about Mark De La Rosa. I don't know if you heard that, because they were supposed to fight on the regional scene in a title fight in LFA, and Mark actually pulled out the day of the weigh-ins. But I heard the story from some of Mark's boys. I heard that Ocho Peterson's team, so they missed weight by 3 pounds. Steven Peterson missed weight by 3 pounds, and then miraculously, half an hour later, they take the scale around the backstage, no one can see, and then he miraculously makes weight. So Mark De La Rosa was like, yo, fuck that, dude. He didn't make weight. Like, I'm not taking this fight. But so since then, they've had a rivalry. But back to this fight, who you got, Elias or Mark?
Yeah, I like Elias. He's the cousin of Sergio and Anthony. And, Sergio and Anthony been putting in a little bit of work lately. I know that has nothing to do with this fight. But, his fight against Adam Antolin, a tough flyweight. I mean, he knocked that guy out stiff in Mexico in front of Dana White. So
on a fucking cruise ship, exactly.
I think. So he's no slouch. And we know Casey Kinney fought Antolin, and, he got robbed. Antolin's a tough out. The fact that he knocked him stiff says a lot. De La Rosa had a tough debut. He got dominated by a flyweight, below 500 flyweight. I didn't see the fight going down that way, but props to Tim Elliott. That his girlfriend is my girl Montana. They've been putting in some work at Factory X and up there in Texas. But I think Elias Garcia is going to take this. I think De La Rosa is going to come out strong, but I don't think he's going to be able to keep it up. I think he'll win the first round, but I think the next 2 rounds Garcia will butcher his body, and I think De La Rosa is going to take this out.
Yeah, look, De La Rosa, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's a very tough guy. I just kind of thought, like, he should have cut his teeth a little bit more on the regional scene before he got to the UFC. I might be wrong, because, look, he comes out here and he wins this fight, then, I'll shut up. But I personally think that Elias is on a different level. So I see Elias being the more well-rounded guy here, and I see him taking this win. Next up in the UFC featherweight division, we got Kurt Holobaugh. He's -185. The comeback on Raoni Barcelos is +160. Now, you think my boy Kurt Holobaugh is going to be finding a way to use that IV after this weigh-in?
Yeah, that's a big thing. He's not going to have that IV for this fight. And, Kurt Holobaugh, he's a tough guy. His one UFC fight back in the day, he got cut right away after one fight. So, that just shows you what they thought of him back then. I feel like he is a 2-weight world champion in Titan, but between you and me, he got one of those belts by robbery. But Des Green finds a way to lose fights a lot. So, props to Kurt Holobaugh. He knocked out Matt Bessette. Like, congrats, kid. But, I think we have a new Brazilian weasel in the UFC roster. My boy Raoni, he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but he just likes to knock guys the fuck out. Instead, we saw him knock out Dan Moret stiff on the local scene. He is coming off a 2-year layoff.
He prepped that chin for Gilbert Arenas.
Exactly. He is coming off a 2-year layoff, but the thing is with these Brazilian weasels, they find a way to win, and especially against guys like Kurt Holobaugh, who have a big name value right now for some reason, because I guess he did win 2 belts in Titan. But the thing is, he was fighting Yostani Cespedes and, jobbers, habitual losers. So, I got my boy Raoni for the upset here. I think he's going to land the more powerful shots on the feet. I think Kurt's going to be willing to trade with him, and I think Raoni's going to put him in his place fast. And I think on the mat, Raoni's got this all day. So I'm going to take the upset with my boy Raoni.
Man, I'm really curious how Kurt Holobaugh is going to rehydrate for this fight, because obviously you guys know he got banned for using illegal IVs. You're not allowed to use IVs anymore to rehydrate, and Kurt Holobaugh is a massive 145 or so. That could really fuck with him if he doesn't have his shit in order. And Raoni making his UFC debut here. This guy is really underrated. A lot of people don't know who this guy is. Dangerous Brazilian striker. And he'll sit back and wait. He's patient, but when the time comes to land one of those big bombs, he knows how to do that too. And I think he's pretty experienced making his UFC debut here. So it won't surprise me to see him come out here and get this upset. And I'll actually go ahead and pick him. So I'm going to go with Raoni Barcelos as well. Now next up, we got Liz Carmouche. She's minus 130. The comeback on Jennifer Maia is plus 110. Now, Shaq, Jennifer Maia, former Invicta champion, making her UFC debut here against the vet Liz Carmouche. Which way are you going?
Yeah, I got my girl Jenny Maia in this one. Liz Carmouche is a below 500 fighter in the UFC. And, I thought in her last fight, I thought she was going to beat Alexis Davis's ass. But then she showed me that she's not... She's still stuck in the going armbar for armbar stage. She's supposed to be this 10th planet EBI, shit, but she's still engaging in she's still engaging in the shit I saw on that season of Tough with that Niko one, you know what I'm saying? The back and forth armbar shit. And she's been in the UFC since fucking, God knows, she's the first female to ever step in the UFC cage. She's a habitual loser, in my opinion. She finds that Alexis Davis fight pretty much solidified that. Liz Carmouche.
She literally is the first female to step inside the UFC cage.
Yeah, she finds every possible way to lose. That Alexis Davis fight. First round, you win the first round, but what happens in the last 30 seconds? You get in an armbar, and now that round's up for question. No judge scored every round the same. All the scorecards are all over the place. And then, the second round, you get taken down when Alexis, catches a kick and you just stay on your back for the rest of the round. But then you come back towards the end of that round, and in the third round, it's 1-1. Probably you got the fight in the bag. You're on top for a good 3 minutes, 4 minutes. And what do you do in the last 30 seconds? You get swept and mounted, and then you you lose the fight. So, that's finding a way to lose. You had the fight in the bag. That's like some certain Asia shit. You know what I'm saying? You had it, and you couldn't. That's why she's 3-4. And, her fight against Lauren Murphy, Lauren Murphy, jobber. Liz, Liz got her hand raised, but it was a very close fight. She got taken down 2 or 3 times in that fight. Liz ain't going to blow anyone out the water. I know she did have that upset against Katlyn Chookagian, but when you look more into it, firstly, Chookagian ain't shit. Like, she's just...
Chookagian dropped Lord.
Exactly. The
Liz.
third round, the first 2 rounds, she tries to give you the fight at every possible way. And my girl Jennifer Maia, she's had some losses back in the day to Shilla Gaff, but, people, if you want to give her shit because of that, I mean, you really don't know shit about women's MMA. We know that all these girls have, a couple weird losses on their record. I mean, Tisha lost to fucking Randa Marcos at one point, you know what I'm saying? Like, it happens. Like, these chicks, and if you look at the odds in that fight, she wasn't even supposed to win that fight. She was like plus 255. So they weren't counting her to win that fight. When she lost to Deanna Bennett, she was a plus 200 underdog. She wasn't supposed to win that fight. So, I think Jennifer Maia's been making improvements. She's a Muay Thai champion. She's a Brazilian. She just got her Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. When she moves forward, that's where she's going to take advantage in this fight. When Liz Carmouche moves backward, she's super... she doesn't like getting hit, you know what I'm saying? After grappling exchanges, she backs up, and some girls she's able to capitalize on her athleticism against, and certain girls she's not. I don't think she is against Jennifer Maia. Jennifer Maia, her fight against Roxanne Modafferi, who's top 5, she got taken down a couple times, but she reversed it, and then from rounds 3, 4, and 5, she stuffed every takedown. Her fight against the Pole, the super hyped up Pole, Aga Nij, whatever her last name is, those Poles. Those Poles' last names. That girl was super hyped, and I know a lot of you motherfuckers bet on her too because she was Carolina's training partner, and all this shit. So and my girl Jennifer Maia put her in her place. You know what I'm saying? She tied her up. She brutalized her against that.
She got dropped in that first round.
She did get dropped in that first round, but she showed what a true champion does. You know what I'm saying? Worst case scenario, she still came back and won a 49-46 on all 3 cards. So, I got my girl Jennifer Maia here. I think she's the more efficient fighter. And then, in that second fight, she didn't get taken down at all by Aga, who's a judo, who's got serious judo and jiu-jitsu credentials. So I got my girl Jennifer Maia here. I think she's going to move forward, land the more effective shots. I think Liz Carmouche is scared to get hit on the chin. I don't think she's making the right improvements. And I think even when Liz Carmouche does get on top, if you really pay attention, who's landing the more strikes? When Liz Carmouche is on top, she doesn't do anything on top. When she took Miesha Tate down, Miesha Tate, outstruck her from her back, and then she got up, and because Miesha Tate has that forward pressure, Liz Carmouche started closing her eyes and throwing punches because she was scared to get hit, and she lost the fight because Miesha Tate was a little tougher. She lost because Alexis Davis was a little tougher. Now, because she was fighting Lauren Murphy, we know Lauren Murphy ain't tough, so of course she's going to scrape that one out. And Caitlin Chukagian's like the Marina Moroz of 125. She's a fairy. She just hits air and makes a bunch of tennis sounds. So, I got my girl Jennifer Maia by 30-27 decision.
Yeah, I mean, the issue with Liz Carmouche here, and this ain't a new thing, Shaq, this has been going on for her whole career, is that she loves to gift you fights. She loves to give away that win.
And even when she fought Marlos
Kunin. Oh, yeah, I was about to bring that up right now. I mean, I remember when she was dominating Marlos Kunin. It looks like she's about to be, the Strikeforce champion, and then she's like, here, take my arm. Take my arm, Marloes. And, she's had many moments like that throughout her UFC career. That last fight with Alexis Davis, you're taking on someone who's coming off a 2-year maternity leave.
Matter of fact, speaking of that, so Alexis Davis got submitted by Sarah McMahon in the first round, 30% takedown defense, and got taken down 5 times.
Second round versus McMahon.
Second round, yeah. Second round versus, but she got dominated by Sarah McMahon in a fight. You know what I'm saying? Any girl that gets dominated by Sarah McMahon.
The reason I know went to the second is because Sarah said she couldn't feel her face.
Typical Sarah. Quit. But, and that fight with Cindy Dandor. Guess who took down Alexis Davis 5 times? Cindy fucking Dandor. Alexis Davis gets taken down on the reg, so I'm not going to put too much stock into those trip takedowns because we know in the clinch my girl Jennifer Maia is. If you watch the tape, my girl Jennifer Maia handles her business in the clinch.
So, again, like I was saying, Liz Carmouche finds a way to gift you these fights. This ain't nothing new. This has been going on for a long time, since the Strikeforce days. And I don't think it's going to be any different here. I mean, when you're taking on someone coming off a 2-year maternity leave, and they just quit against Sarah McMahon, they got these massive love handles, and you go out there and gift them that fight. It was just, let's just say Jennifer Maia has a lot more upside and potential than Liz Carmouche does. Liz Carmouche, she's at the tail end. So I see Jennifer Maia coming out here. Her Muay Thai is too strong. Her Jiu-Jitsu's on point. Just don't lay on your back and lose a decision, and you'll most likely win this fight. So I got Jennifer Maia as well. Next up in the welterweight division, we got Randy Brown. He's minus 125. The comeback on Niko Price is plus 105. Now, we got a lot of love for both these guys. In their last fights, they both came out, cashed max bets. Randy beat Mickey Gall. Niko Price beat George Sullivan. Very dominant performances, but now they fight each other. So who you got?
They did come through for us in their fights. Randy came through big time with that 10-unit play against Mickey the Fraud, and Niko came through for us against Sullivan. Niko.
Mickey Gall and George Sullivan are fighting each other too, right?
That's going to be a good fight. So Randy came through for us big time against Mickey, even though he pretty much beat Mickey in the exact area where we didn't want him to fight at, but he still dominated him. I thought the first and third were 10-8s. And, Randy, we've been looking for this performance out of him for years, and not years, but he's only been in the UFC for a couple years, but we've been looking for that performance. And, Niko, what a crazy run he had, when he knocked out Alex Morono stiff, when he Juban stiff, submitted Brandon Thatch in his debut, Sullivan. But the thing, what's alarming me with Niko is his damage meter. He's been taking a lot of damage. In that Morono fight, he got dropped about 2 or 3 times. But his pressure, he was able to stand there and pressure and knock Morono out. And then his fight with Juban, my boy Juban's barely hanging on these days, as you can see from his last fight.
And his recent
pullout. He's barely holding on these days. But and then who else did I say he fought? And Sullivan. And the Sullivan fight, that's when I'm starting to see a little bit of the damage might be taking a little.
We saw in the Vicente fight.
The Vicente fight where he got completely butchered and, he didn't know what to do on the feet and he shot in and got dart choked. But Vicente's no slouch, so, no shame in that L. But what I'm noticing with Niko is I feel like the damage is starting to add up with Niko. I am seeing a little in him. You know what I'm saying? So I think
you gotta explain what that means to the fans.
He's you hear that saliva in his mouth. He's getting a little punch drunk these days. And I mean, Sullivan, his last fight, Sullivan took him down. Sullivan was outboxing him. I mean, we saw that one too that Sullivan landed and Niko felt it. But luckily, we know Sullivan runs himself into the ground every fight, and that's why we, put over 6 units on Niko in that fight. Sullivan runs himself into the ground every time. So, it was a good win. But I do think Niko Price's damage is starting to add up, and his training situation. He's no longer with ATT. He's not putting in that work with Santiago anymore. He's doing his own thing. He's got his own gym, and to be honest, the gym looks like a shack. The gym looks like a little woodshed. So, and my boy Randy, problem in the past has always been the ground. When he fought Augusto Montano, he kind of got out positioned for 2 rounds, and then he came back in the 3rd round to finish him. But between you and me, it was 1-1 going into that 3rd round. And then, his fight with Mickey Gall, the 2nd round, he played around too much on the mat with his jiu-jitsu. So, that is Randy's problem. But it's either now or never for Randy. He's either going to cut that bullshit out or he's still going to do it. I think he's going to cut it out for this fight. I think on the feet, it's going to be a mismatch, actually. Not saying that Niko's not going to land any punches. I'm sure he's going to give Randy a nice little crack as well. But, I think Randy's too fast out in space for Niko. I think the jab, the 1-2, the teeps to the body, the front kicks, I just think that Niko's going to be a step behind Randy. And I think if Randy stays off the mat, I think he can get this fight by decision, and I think he can hurt Niko too. I think Niko's going to be really confused out in space, but I'll never, count out Niko. He's super tough. He's one of those scarecrows. He's going to keep coming forward. Shots really don't affect him that much besides the Vicente fight, but I think the damages add up. I think the shots are going to affect him, so I got my boy Randy.
Such a good fight. Have so much respect for both guys. I mean, Randy Brown, I had about a 7-unit play on him to beat Mickey Gall. You had a 10-unit play on him to beat Mickey Gall. And obviously, Niko Price came out and gave us our first winning event of 2018 when he beat George Sullivan with that max bet. So, love both these guys. I think that there's a myth about Randy Brown's takedown defense. I don't think his takedown defense is the issue. I think his get-up game is the issue. Because if you watch that Bilal Muhammad fight, it took Bilal Muhammad about 7 minutes to get this guy down. But once he finally did get him down, Randy's got too much pride in his jiu-jitsu, and he doesn't have too much urgency to get back up. He likes to play off his back and try to attempt triangles and do the whole bit. So against Niko Price, Niko actually has a pretty decent takedown game. I mean, you saw the fight with George Sullivan, beautiful body lock, beautiful lateral drop. So Randy's got to keep the standing. He's got to use that nice sprawl, because you saw that sprawl against Mickey Gall. That was a serious sprawl. It's just in the 2nd round he got swept. So, if you're going to try to beat this guy in a jiu-jitsu manner, which I highly doubt, I feel like he was trying to prove a point against Niko Price. And I feel like in this fight he can come out here, use his stand-up tools, and hopefully this is his coming out party, man. Hopefully this is finally the time where we see, so this is why, he had so much hype when he first came into the UFC. But Niko's a tough out for anyone. Niko can beat anyone. I mean, Niko hits hard as hell. He's well-rounded. He's an opportunistic finisher. You can never count the guy out, but I simply think Randy's more polished, and I think if he avoids getting taken down and held down, I think he'll go out here and win this fight. So I'm going to go with Randy Brown as well. And next up in the flyweight division, we got Saeed Nurmagomedov. He's minus 150. The comeback on Justin Scoggins is plus 130. Now, so is my boy Justin Scoggins about to come out here, look like a future world champion, then dive headfirst into a guillotine choke, Shaq?
Yeah, Scoggins, man, it's unfortunate because, we thought he was promised at one point, but that's never going to happen again. The guy's just too mentally unstable to, have a performance like how he did against Ray Borg that night. When that was back when Johnny fought Wonder Boy that night. Who else fought that night? That was a long time ago. Wonder Boy was on his path to a title shot, and I'll tell you right now, he ain't never getting to another title shot again.
Johnny Hendricks was in a UFC main event.
Exactly. Johnny Hendricks was still a top 5 welterweight the last time. So
people were betting Johnny Hendricks to beat Wonder Boy.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So that's how long ago Justin Scoggins has had his shit together, and we've seen this guy's antics several times. I mean, the guy's head case, man. I mean, we've seen him at UFC 201 when he was supposed to fight Ian McCall and he didn't make the weight, and we saw how he was acting behind the scenes. I mean, the guy's weird, and we've seen him at local events too, man. And it's funny.
His brother's better than him.
His brother's definitely way better than him. Shout out to my boy Jared Scoggins. He'll be in the UFC soon. He'll tap out his brother too. But one thing I'm noticing, man, we know this. A lot of people might know this, but we've seen Scoggins and one of his teammates, and they kind of have the same thing. Sarah McMahon, we know that they come from the same home gym, that Revolution gym. And there's a common thing going on between those two. Strong first rounds. Second anything bad happens. it's tap tap city. You know what I'm saying? So, I think he's the Sarah McMahon of the flyweight division
with a karate style.
With the karate style
wrestling.
instead of wrestling. They're both powerhouses early. They both fuck everyone up early. It's just the second things get tough, they find a way to go. So, Nurmagomedov, I think he's more of one of the striking Russians more than a wrestling Russian. But I think he can wrestle. I think he wants it more. The only way I see him losing this fight is if he, exchange punches with him on the inside. Because,
for 3 straight.
Exactly, for 3 straight rounds. Because Scoggins, offensively striking, is just a better fighter. He's pretty much better than everyone he's going to fight when it comes to just punches and kicks. So, I think Ced's a long guy. I feel like he might make Scoggins switch it up, and like how we saw against Sasaki. Sasaki had the length and height on him, and Scoggins wasn't sitting back and countering like how we see him do against Borg and Pedro because those guys are short. He got on the inside and tried to throw power punches, which depleted his energy faster, which led him to getting tapped out. So, I think something similar is going to happen here. I think Scoggins is going to get off to a good start early. Then I think Ced is going to, wrestle him and just do what he has to do the next 2 rounds to get the victory. I think Scoggins is a habitual, like Liz Carmouche. He finds a way to lose. And it is what it is, I'm not going to sit here and say if Scoggins figures it out because he just simply isn't going to figure it out.
How many times are we going to say that?
How many times are we going to say that? We've been saying that for 2 fucking years. So, I think Ced's going to get this by decision. I wouldn't shock me if Scoggins caught him on the chin, but I think Ced's going to stay composed. He's one of, those Russians that are very well tested on the local scene. They fight Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. They fight other Russians who are fucking 30-0 and shit like that, the Magomedovs of the world and things like that, fighting in front of Kadyrov. So I think Nurmagomedov's going to get this close decision victory.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Justin Scoggins, just on talent alone, I think he might be the best guy in the division. For a while, back before he would dive into a guillotine choke every single fight, I actually thought that dude could have maybe been the guy to go out there and beat DJ. I know that sounds hilarious to say now, but I just think he's that talented. But as you know, whoever said this game is 90% mental was 100% correct, man, because he doesn't have the mental capabilities to be a world champion, and that's just facts. So I think the first round and a half, I think the first 7 minutes of this fight, he's gonna go out here, he's gonna put a little karate clinic on my boy Saeed, but Saeed's Russian, which means he's tougher than Justin Scoggins, and I think he's going to bite down on that mouthpiece, and when it's time to turn up, it's time to turn up, and I know he's a striker, but I think he can mix in a takedown or 2, or if not, I think he can hit Justin Scoggins on the chin and make him shoot for a takedown. So, and
another thing is, we've seen Ced on that local scene. He's a long flyweight. We've seen him wrap up a couple of Darces, a couple arm in chokes. So don't when Scoggins shoots in, we know it's going to be tap tap city.
So yeah, fans of the show, let me know what that Saeed by submission prop is. You know what I'm saying? But oh shit, here we got a good one, man. Next up. And I'm surprised this is on the prelims too, but next up in the UFC featherweight division, we got Alexander the Great Volkanovski. He's minus 310. The comeback on Darren the Damage Elkins is plus 255. Now, Shaq, always disrespecting my boy Darren the Damage Elkins, and then once again,
I'll tell you why
he's the underdog.
He's the James Vick of the featherweight division. They don't give a shit about him.
James Vick's in a fucking main event, son.
But he wasn't, you know what I'm saying, until this opportunity
he was in a co-main event before that.
They would have demoted him to the prelims, but... my boy Vic has to beat the number 10, 9, 8, 7, and 6.
Vic has to beat the entire division and a weight class up to get a title shot.
Vic has to fight Hernandez after he beats Gaethje. So, but anyways, my boy Elkins never gets his respect. And, to be honest, I want nothing to do with the Fade Elkins strain, because the Fading Elkins strain is a losing recipe, man. I mean, just put it this way. What is he on, a 5 or 6 fight win streak? 6? I thought he was going to lose all 6 of those fights.
He was the dog in all 6 of those fights.
I thought he was going to lose every fucking last one of those fights. Dan's a witness. I was almost about to bet Bermudez, when they were fighting. I was like, it's like with Elkins, you say there's no way, like when Elkins fights, you're like, there's no way he does this. There's no way he does this. There's no way he does this. And guess what he does? He does it. When he fought Chad Skelly, I think that was the second of the win streak. When he fought Chad Skelly, I had Chad Skelly big. Everyone was saying Chad Skelly's a younger, version of Elkins. And Elkins went out there and did his thing, He out-wrestled him, he outstruck him, he got through his adversity. Elkins is a little, of course he's slow, he's a punching bag, he's not fast, he's
the damage.
Yeah, he's the damage, that's what he said. He's like, I'm unathletic, I'm slow, I get hit a bunch, but I got cardio, I got heart, and I'll never quit, you know what I'm saying? And that gets him through these fights, so these guys go in there thinking Elkins is going to be an easy fight. And next thing you know, they're huffing and puffing after the first round, and then Elkins beats the living shit out of them.
Next thing you know, their undefeated record ain't undefeated anymore.
So, so I see a lot of people are saying this is going to be what Mursad should have done. But we know Mursad, I'll admit, I don't think, I'll say Mursad beat himself that night. I think, Elkins, but that's the thing. Elkins has a way of doing this shit, man. Like, I will never, like to put my entire life savings on Volkanovski, a guy that had fought Yasuki Kasuya, jobber, not in the UFC. And by the way, he got taken down by Yasuki Kasuya and didn't get up until Kasuya went for a leg lock. Then he fought that fucking Pugness. Like, bro, when you're in there with those guys, I expect everyone to get the job done. Like, I expect motherfuckers coming in from the local scene to go out here and take these guys out. You know what I'm saying? Like, Pugness and Kasuya? Like, who can't beat those guys? You know what I'm saying? Like, so, of course he dominated. Of course it was good. But everyone would dominate that motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Ross Pearson's old ass beat that motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, he did his job there. By the way, Pugness double underhooked him like several times. But, Pugness is a jobber. He ain't going to capitalize on spots like that. Elkins will. So then he fought Shane Young. He didn't finish him. We bet the under 2.5. I was like, Volkanovski, show me the real guy that they say you are. You know what I'm saying? And he couldn't finish that bum. But Shane Young's a tough guy that likes to eat a lot of punches. So I guess I made a mistake then. And then his fight with Kennedy. Look, if you honestly think that's gonna happen here, look, Kennedy quit like 30
Kennedy
seconds.
Ain't in the UFC anymore.
Kennedy quit 30 seconds into that fight. You know what I'm saying? Look, I thought it was gonna be a more competitive fight going into that, but I was really talking shit mostly. But like. Kennedy, we know Kennedy's scared to get hit on the chin. He's a grappler, you know what I'm saying? And when Volkanovski took him down, the fight was over. If you think Darren Elkins is going to quit like that, you're fucking mistaken. So what I'm trying to say is Volkanovski has seen nothing, not even close to a Darren Elkins in a fight before. It's so easy to go out there and think you're going to get Elkins out of there. And Elkins is the guy that you have to manage your energy consistently throughout the 3-round process against. Because the second you put a little bit too much energy into one round, that's when he's going to start wailing on you in the next round. And I've seen it so many times with this guy, man. But I think he's been taking a lot of damage. But the thing is, man, these guys, this is the type of fights Elkins wins. Like, how many times have we seen him win this type of fight? Diego Brandao, dating back to 2012. Fucking Michael Johnson, Mursad. Skelly, these young guys coming up, these 15-1, 16-1 like Skelly's, like Mursad's, these top prospects, and they all get their ass beat by Darren Elkins. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know how to explain. Like, if I was to bet on I can't bet on Elkins because when I watch tape on him, I'm just like, but you're not supposed to ask questions. You know what I'm saying? Look, I'm actually gonna take Elkins here, man. I was gonna take Volkanovski, but it's just like the facts. I don't have the facts to say that Volkanovski is going to be okay in these situations. He's never experienced anything like this. If he comes out here and takes him down and just pounds his head into the mat, props to him. But Darren Elkins eats those ground and pound shots very well. You know what I'm saying? Darren Elkins finds a way to get his hand raised. So I wouldn't be shocked if if Volkanovski build up that lead and was able to move around and still kill the clock and win on points. But it's a tough fight. I just can't get down with fading Elkins at this line. I wasn't shocked that the confidence in Volkanovski. I know he's got a lot of hype, but it's the typical shit that we've seen several times in the past. Like, I feel like on Saturday night when Elkins wins, we're going to be like, oh, guess what? He did it again.
Yeah. I mean, Volkanovski is a very talented guy. He's 17-1. That's a great record. He's a winner. Also, he's a very strong guy. He's a former rugby player.
He's a former middleweight.
He's like a 5'4" middleweight, but yeah, he's a former rugby player. The guy's super strong. He's actually got some serious wrestling too. You've seen the way he fights, man. He's able to take these guys down. And a lot of people criticize the Australian wrestling, but my boy Volkanovski's got his game down pat. The thing with Elkins is there is going to be that time when he gets knocked out in the first round. And I know someone's going to bring up the Mendes fight, but come on, that's not the Elkins we see today. That was pre-alpha male. That was before he was on their supplement plan. You know what I'm saying? You put Darren Elkins on that supplement plan and look the fuck out.
Scary motherfucker thing. And we've heard stories about this motherfucker Elkins in the gym. Like Garbrandt and Faber said, like they'll have motherfuckers come in the gym and fucking tee off on Elkins early. And then second, third, fourth, fifth round starts coming and Elkins is beating the living. Matter of fact, I've seen a video personally of Elkins beating the shit out of Benito Lopez, like head in the mat, like pounding his head in.
You taught that boy a lesson for sure. It's just about if the damage has finally added up for Darren Elkins.
No, it hasn't.
I mean, I personally don't think it has. I think that he's looking the best he ever has. I know he's still hittable. He still eats a lot of shots, but that's his MO. That's what he does. Eventually, he's not gonna be able to do that. But right now, I think he's in his prime. And I think that fight with MJ, that dude, he knocked out Dustin Poirier. That guy beat Tony Ferguson. That guy beat Edson Barboza. And my boy Darren Elkins was landing some nice strikes in that pocket.
That's some bad movement in that fight.
His boxing's been improving at Team Alpha Male, you know? And also, his cardio is insane. You saw that fight with Mirsad Bektic. Mirsad had 2 10-8s or something. And then, with 1 minute left.
And if you think, no offense to Volkanovski, but personally, I think Mirsad Bektic is the best wrestler in the division. I think
statistically speaking, he is the best wrestler in the
division.
He's
the best MMA wrestler in the division. And Mirsad, is just a different type of physicality than Volkanovski, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Volkanovski's got a very bright future. I think it might be first out time. Hey, if he comes out here and he beats Elkins, he'll be 18-1. He's the man. I already think he's the real deal, win or lose. I think Volkanovski is for real, but I think that everyone's got to take that first out. I think there's a massive step up in competition, and I think that if he doesn't get Elkins out of there early and he starts to expend too much energy, I think that Elkins will take over late like he always does. So, at this price, if you're a betting man, I think it's dog or pass. So I'm going to go with Darren the Damage Elkins.
And, another thing is people are saying, this shit's lucky and he's getting lucky and all
this. He's on a 6-fight win streak.
Motherfucker, he's been doing this shit since way back in the day. Like, how is it luck? This is what he does.
It's ugly, yes, but not lucky.
Plain and simple, you have more facts to say that Darren Elkins will, handle a prospect like this to say that Volkanovski can deal with this type of big step up in competition. That's just facts.
So it'll be interesting. Next up in the bantamweight division, we got Alejandro, the Turbo Weasel Perez. He's minus 170. The comeback on Eddie Wineland is plus 150. Now, we got a lot of love for Alejandro on this show. The Mexican Weasel. This dude wins pretty much every single fight he's in. The only time he's lost in the UFC was a fluke. But now he's taking on the former champ, Eddie Wineland, and Wineland's been getting a lot of respect at the betting window. What's your opinion?
Yeah, the Mexican Weasel, Turbo Perez, gets his job done a lot, and Eddie, he gets his job done about half the time, so it's definitely a step up in competition, I'll admit that. At first I was thinking this was going to be a walk in the park for Alejandro Perez, but, Eddie, he's getting old, he's coming off a neck surgery, he's coming off a lot of surgeries, the guy's always injured, he's 2 broken jaws, but when you watch a tape on him, I still got to respect his style of movement, you know what I'm saying? His style of movement is kind of hard to pick up, and, we've seen Alejandro get cracked on the chin, and dropped a couple times by guys like Sukumtach. Lopez was getting off in that first round, but we know Lopez is, I think my boy Rafael showed that Lopez is hell on wheels in that first round, you know what I'm saying? They were saying Rafael was getting dropped by Lopez and shit, like, please. But Lopez drops everyone in the first round. So, I think Wineland, he's super tricky to pick up, The movement's definitely going to be difficult to pick. But Alejandro wanted this fight in particular for a reason. He called Eddie Wineland out in specific after his last fight. So, he's thinking he's going to come out here and weasel this guy out 30-27, probably similar to how he did Yuri. And we've seen Eddie Wineland come out here and be gun-shy several times. We've seen him be gun-shy against guys like Dotson, guys like Caraway, Benavidez. But we know that Eddie Wineland's takedown defense is also fucking money. I mean, to actually get him down and hold him down is fucking damn near impossible. So he's got like a 88% takedown.
Alejandro's going to stand and bang with him.
Exactly. So this fight's going to contest on the feet, in my opinion. Alejandro, he does a job on the feet. He 6-packs and counters, but the thing is, I could so see it being where both guys are a little scared to pull the trigger just because Wineland's movement's a little tricky. And, Wineland, when he gets you hurt, I'll give him props. When he gets you hurt, he fucking puts you down. You know what I'm saying? He's very calm. He's like a killer, man. When he gets you wobbled, that fight against Takea, I know Takea is a bum and a jobber and all, but when he cracked him, he kept his. A lot of guys make that mistake of going for the finish, gassing themselves out, and then you're not doing it. But Wineland, stayed back, picked his shots, and got him out of there. Same thing like Frankie Saenz, and we can say both those guys are jobbers, but at the time, Frankie Saenz was the favorite, so. It is what it is. So I think Turbo's going to pull out a split decision, a close decision. I think it's going to be close. I think Wineland, he is getting up there. I still think he's effective. It's going to be a little tough, but I don't think, Turbo's going to be able to stall out on takedowns or tie-ups or things along those natures. Tying up with Eddie and trying to wrestle with him is a path for disaster. He's just going to make you look a little silly. So I think he's going to have to win this fight on the feet. So I'm going to take Turbo because he's a solid weasel. Weasels always know what they need to do. Weasels will do anything to win. So I'm going to take my boy Alejandro by split that everyone thinks Wineland won afterwards, and they'll complain on Twitter afterwards and all those things. Alejandro sucks. He cheated. He didn't fight. He didn't fight. He ran away. Yeah, he's gonna run away. Of course, that's what he does. So I think the Weasel will prevail.
Alejandro's the guy I like to bet at dog money, but at -170, even at the -215 it was at earlier. Even though I do think he's gonna win this fight. I'm not used to seeing him at, I'm not used to having
Now they're all on my boy.
Yeah, I'm not used to having to pay juice on a guy like Alejandro. I'm used to getting him at dog money every single fight. And his fights are always close. That's why he's good to take as a dog. I'm not necessarily comfortable laying the juice on him in this spot, even though I do think he's going to come out here and edge a decision because my boy Alejandro gets caught a lot. He gets tagged in almost every fight, but he finds a way to win. And with Eddie, you run in, you try to close the distance on a guy like Eddie, and he snipes you with that straight right, man. Don't be surprised if my boy Alejandro takes a canvas nap. And, between you and me, Shaq, I know we secretly know that Eddie's going to knock out Alejandro. But, I can't pick against Alejandro, right? So I'm going to go with Alejandro by majority decision here after getting dropped in that first round. But there's going to be some really scary moments in this fight. But at the same time, my boy Alejandro did go out there and shut down Yuri Alcantara. So he's got the experience shutting down a really experienced, dangerous, lethal striker in the bantamweight division. So I won't be surprised if he does it again. But this is completely different because Eddie's movement ain't like Yuri's movement. Let's just put it that way.
He's the Midwest Tom Cruise.
He's the Midwest Tom Cruise. And shout out to Eddie on a personal level because he's a firefighter. And also, I know you saw... I don't know if it's his brother or his cousin, but the thing he did for that kid was really awesome too. So I got a lot of respect for Eddie as a person. I'm going to go with Alejandro by majority decision, but I expect it to be a very closely contested fight for sure. Now next up in the bantamweight division, we got Marion Reneau. She's -118, and Kat Zingano is -102. So they got him a pick 'em. It's the battle of the moms. So which way are you going?
Kat, we max bet faded her last fight against my girl Filomeno Vieira, and I felt like people were probably expecting us to max bet fade her again, but look, Marion.
We were expecting to max bet fade her again, but
Marion Reneau ain't nothing like Helen Filomeno. I'll tell you that right now. Marion's a good fighter. She wins the majority of her fights, but she's old, she's 41 years old, and her takedown defense, oh man, her takedown defense is sketchy, because man, that fight against Betch Correa, a fight that she beat Betch's ass in that third round, it was a draw, but she lost the first 2 rounds by getting out positioned. Her fight with Talita Bernardo, who is a complete jobber in my opinion, she got taken down about 2-3 times. She was able to finish. She won those fights, props to her, but her fight with Sarah McMahon, look, we called that fight to a T. Like, Sarah, she's pregnant right now, She, I don't even have to say anything about that, So, props to Marion for winning those fights. I tried to live better in between rounds, and 5 times, they fucked me over. But, Kat Zingano, I'll give Kat some respect because, that Kellen fight, I thought Kellen was honest. Going into the fight, I thought Kellen was going to finish her, like, by arm triangle, 30-26, even though it was 30-26. They tried to fuck me on that split decision. But, I think Kat showed her heart in that fight because, she could have laid down like Sarah, like Ashley Evans Smith, and completely just said, Ketlin, you got it. But she hung in there the whole 3 rounds, and she's a tough girl. Actually, she went 0-3 while she was training at or 0-2 while she was training at Alliance. So now she switched things up. She's got a new. She's not with the Lions actually anymore. So she's not with the Lions. She's training with Andre Galval. He's got like a jiu-jitsu gym in San Diego. She's training with one of Jeremy Stevens' old striking coaches.
I heard she's got a new doctor too.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. She still probably got some representation from Alliance, but the supplement plan. But I think that Marion Reneau's takedown defense is a huge liability in this fight. Even though, because you know that she likes to go for subs off her back, and she's pretty efficient with them. But we've never really seen Kat, besides the Rousey fight, like necessarily in trouble in terms of like her on top position and getting armbarred, like in armbar defense positions or anything like that. Kat, when she's on top, I mean, she does her job. When she fought Pena, Pena's just a bull. Like, I feel like Pena and Kellyn, these girls bring a different type of physicality, a different type of meanness to the cage, And I feel like Reneau's a little more passive. She's more of a workman type fighter, She's got good boxing, but it builds up throughout the fight, you know what I'm saying? I could so see her getting off to a good start. And Kat throws heat, man. She was throwing heat at Kellyn early, man. And we saw what happened in the third round. She came out and head kicked Kellyn, and so I feel like Kat might actually be a little tougher, even though that she's lost 3 fights in a row. I feel like she's in a spot where she really doesn't have anything to lose. This is a typical fight that people fall into the trap of saying, "Oh yeah, Kat's done, let's fade her," and then she gets that one win to keep her job. You know what I'm saying? So
you're saying there's going to be that one win?
I think Kat will keep her job. I think she's going to scrape this one out. I think that she's going to capitalize on the top position. I mean, Toledo Bernardo is a jobber. I mean, I watched Toledo fight Reneau, and then I just wanted to watch Toledo because I thought Toledo was a jobber in that fight. So I just wanted to watch Toledo in the Reneau just to make sure. And yeah, Toledo's a complete bum. You know what I'm saying? So I think that you getting taken down by Betch Correa, Toledo. Let's not forget that stunt she pulled against Ashley Evans-Smith back in the day.
Where she cashed on Ashley.
Yeah, we bet on Ashley. She won the first round, but then she completely shut down the next 2 rounds. I think Marion's also a little timid to get hit on the chin, Her fight with Sarah McMahon, she survived, but like we always say, all you have to do is just make it to that second one, my girl Sarah, and you'll get the job done. It's just that chicks like Gina and fucking Alexis make them think that Sarah's a world champion and shit like that. So,
champion quitter.
I think anyone in the bantamweight division, if they stay composed after that first round, will beat Sarah. So, I'm not going to put that much stock into it. So I think my girl Kat's going to come out here, land the harder shots on the feet, the kicks. I think she's going to just, even though she's sloppy and, she really can't sit down and box, I just think the aggressiveness, I think the wildness will actually be a good thing for her here because I think the crowd's going to be a little captivated by it. And I think that Reneau's going to sit back and not quiver, but just be a step behind. I think this is where we're finally going to see that 41-year-old age, even against a girl like Kat Zingano. So, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Marion won. Kat's a habitual, loser at this point in her career. She's below 500, but those girls are different. Those girls bring meanness to that cage. Like, Kellyn's about to fight for the interim title. Juliana Pena, I mean, when she wasn't pregnant, I mean, she beat everyone's ass besides Valentina. So I got my girl Kat here. I think she's going to get that win, and I think she's going to keep that job.
I think that in order for Kat to win this fight, she's got to use her size. She's got to use her physicality because she's way bigger than Marion Reneau, and I could definitely see the first round being a potential 10-8 for Kat Zingano. But the issue is, I don't think she's got, the cardio to go 3 hard. Now, I know someone's going to bring up the third round against Ketlin, but,
Kellyn broke her leg.
Ketlin won that fight 30-26, so I have no idea how that was a split. I think that, one of the judges is part of Kat Zingano's fan club, the whole bit. He was staring at something else. He wasn't staring at the fight, you know what I'm saying? So it was what it was. But now, with Marion, the thing with her is that she gets off to a bad start in every single fight that she's in. And, when Betch Correa is styling on you on the mat. But the thing is, Marion's so tough that she's able to, keep pushing forward. And when these girls gas out, that's when she takes over. And you heard Kat Zingano on Joe Rogan's show talking about her brain problems, her thyroid problems, her this and that problems. And it's like, that's some serious shit. We can talk about Marion being 41, but, Kat in fight years is 51. So, but Kat's so much bigger than Marion. I see Kat having a very dominant first round. I see Marion taking over around the midpoint of the second round and then winning the third. I could see this being a draw or a split decision either way. But since you picked Kat Zingano, I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to take Marion Reneau here to get this win in a very closely contested battle. But we'll see, because Kat's a lot bigger than her. So if Kat comes out here, gets on top of her and smashes her, that's not going to surprise me either. But if Marion can weather that initial storm, I do think she can take over late. Now, next up in the UFC featherweight division, we got Chad Money Mendes. We got Mini Mendes. He's back. He's minus 150. The comeback on Myles Fury Jury is plus 130. Now, the last time we saw my boy Chad Money Mendes inside the octagon, he got knocked the fuck out twice consecutively, back to back, and that was about 3 years ago, Shaq. And since that point, he's had his steroid suspension. He blames it on some cream, but if you saw his physique, the deal, so.
Yeah, let me go ahead and get into my boy Mini Mendes. So look, Chad Mendes comes from a different era in the featherweight division, plain and simple. I want everyone to go on Wikipedia right now, and I want, after the first Aldo fight, I want you to see his level of competition on that second path to the second Aldo fight and to the McGregor and the Frankie fight. Cody McKenzie, jobber. Yeltsin Meza, jobber. Elkins, he knocked out Elkins, but
let's not act like that's
let's
the
not
Elkins
act like, look, I know he knocked out Elkins, but come on, let's not act like it's the same Elkins. That was pre-Alpha Male Elkins. That was the Elkins that was, he was on a 4-fight win streak at 145, and props to Mendes, but look at the odds in that fight. Elkins wasn't supposed to win that fight. Those are the type of fights that are tailor-made for Chad. A workman wrestler that can't take him down and can't box him, of course he's going to fucking style on that guy.
He won't style on him if they fight again, though, right?
Exactly. And then, who else did he fight? Nick Lentz. And,
Guida.
Speaking of that, Guida, jobber, Nick Lentz. Okay, so the Nick Lentz fight is, let's start at the Nick Lentz fight. So he drops Nick Lentz in the first round, beats his ass the first round. Now the next 2 rounds, he was able to get a takedown and stall Lentz out, but we know Lentz loves going to his back, going for guillotines. But that third round, the Chad Mendes fan club and excuse club will say, oh, but he was sick and he was this and that, and he had a sinus thing and all this bullshit.
And McGregor was coming off the couch.
The Chad Mendes excuse club said that he was a little sick. So, but between you and me, Nick Lentz dropped him in the third round and outworked him in the third round. And Nick Lentz, Chad Mendes showed everyone that, hey, if you can stretch it out, if you can put a little adversity into the fights, he might crumble, because the other fights were no adversity at all, clean, smooth sailing, no adversity at all. So then he fights Jose Aldo in Brazil. Great fight, one of the best featherweight fights of all time. I admire his effort in that fight. It was a great fight. But he lost. He lost 4 rounds. He got out-cardioed by Jose Aldo.
He got dropped 100 times.
And Jose Aldo ruined that chin. Straight up. I mean, the shot after the bell in the first round, how the Brazilian weasels like to do it. My boy Aldo just said, fuck it all. Fuck that motherfucker. Yeah. So that shot ruined his chin. And not only that, he dropped Aldo with a left hook at one point, but then right as they're starting to exchange in the pocket, one shot behind the ear, body shut off, face down. He was able to recover because, he really wasn't taking much damage.
Because his steroids.
Exactly, his steroids, his steroids. But then, great fight. He lost. Admirable effort. Then you come back against Lamas. I don't want to discredit the win again, but I'm about to discredit it. But, that
was 2014, 2015?
Look, Lamas is a great fighter. Don't get me wrong. But, we here at Best Fight Picks and the Best Fight Picks offices, look, we really, Ricardo really ain't even in our top 10, 11, 12. What is he in the rankings right now?
7 or 8.
I think he's below that now. I think he might be 11 now. 12.
Oh, wow.
So really, he ain't even top 15 now in my rankings. Look, Ricardo Lamas is a great fighter. Him and Chad Mendes, Frankie, Cub, they're the building blocks of the featherweight division. You know what I'm saying? They were the guys that were here from the get-go. So props to all those guys. They paved the way. They're the initial featherweight. Great win. We know Alpha Male has Ricardo Lamas' number. He's been knocked out by all 3 of those guys. I meant Castillo and Mendes. So, props to them for winning that fight. So then you get the McGregor fight 3 months later. So you mean to tell me that in 3 months you're talking all this about, I want to be a world champion, this and that, I want to be this. Just put it this way, I know some guys get heavy the second the fight's over, but the history of my boy Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo doesn't show up for work a lot, especially back then. You know what I'm saying? How many times has Jose Aldo pulled out of fights?
A lot.
You got to be ready for that call, son. And by the way, my boy Frankie Edgar likes to act like he's ready for the call too. And then when they call him, they
you know how many title fights he's secretly turned down?
The second they call Frankie, You know, these guys, they act like they really want this shit. And, you know, let's just be honest, they don't. So, you know, look, the Chad Mendes Excuse Club, back to them again. You know, they said that it was on short notice. He was off the couch. But how come Chad Mendes in the cage after he lost said, no, I was completely ready. I was ready to go.
You know that Conor McGregor had like a torn ACL because he rolled with Rory McDonald on the media tour and he got injured?
Yeah. And by the way, Conor McGregor looked like shit in that fight. Had the ACL, like you said, his cardio looked like shit, and we know that Conor McGregor's takedown defense, you know,
and get up game
ain't, you know, up on par as other elite fighters on his level. You know what I'm saying? So, and you know, Chad Mendes ran himself into the ground because that was the first time in Chad Mendes' streak that he fought a long, rangy striker that throws teeps to the body, that throws high kicks, you know, that has flow and uses range. So, you know, he took Conor down several times, you know, congrats, but he ran himself into the ground. He went for a guillotine, and the second they got back up to the feet, you know, he got butchered and knocked out, you know.
My boy Conor escaped his submission attempt.
Conor got up off this guy, you know what I'm saying? Nick Lentz got up off this guy, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I feel like this Chad Mendes name value is so fucking blown out of proportion, in my opinion, that it's a different era now, man. So now, speaking of Myles Jury, you know, my boy Myles Jury, you guys all wrote him off. They washed their hands with Myles because a lot of you motherfuckers forgot that Myles Jury was 15-0 at one point. One fight away from the title fight when he fought Cerrone. And, you know, Cerrone embarrassed him that night. You know, Cerrone beat his ass that night. But is he fighting a Muay Thai 6'1" fighter that just beat Eddie Alvarez the fight before that?
Cerrone was on like an 8-fight win streak or something.
The guy that beat Edson and Eddie Alvarez before that, and God knows, you know what I'm saying? So, like, oh, he was 15-0 and he lost to Cerrone. Like, okay. Now, what happened with Myles was, I wouldn't say he showed his true colors after that fight, but he kind of panicked, you know. He changed camps. He left the guys that bought him up. You know, he was training at Alliance his whole career, and then, you know, he ditched them and he went to Power MMA, which was a terrible decision.
He didn't ask Best Fight Picks for advice on that one. You know what I mean? He didn't ask us for a recommendation.
You know, he chose to go to, you know, that camp that quickly
he had to learn his lesson.
You know, he went over there with my boy Bader, and, you know, things didn't work out. You know, just put it this way. Everyone else in that camp besides Bader, just look at their numbers. You know what I'm saying?
CBS.
It's funny because my boy Darren Caldwell actually used to train there too. So, you know, that camp's just for that's Bader's camp. You know what I'm saying? You know, he went out there, got tapped out by Charles Oliveira at 145. I mean, but look, Chad Mendes ain't about to dangle off his neck, like, you know. So, you know, he's on a 2-fight L streak. So now, you know, a lot of guys make the mistake of taking a bad fight on that 2L streak, like Jocko, like Knight, or, you know, a lot of these other guys. Jury had the right, you know, he got his confidence back against De La Torre. That's a good fight to get your confidence back, just so you could feel that win again. And then his next fight against Rick Glenn, that's when he fully made the move back out to the Alliance. You know, he had a talk down with my boy Eric Del Fierro. I actually met my boy Eric Del Fierro in Atlanta. You know, a cool coach. And, you know, Eric Del Fierro's got that, the Alliance conditioning program, you know what I'm saying? If you haven't heard of my boy Jeremy, he talks about it on Rogan's podcast. So, you know, if you guys want the details to that program. But, you know, I think that his fight with Rick Glenn showed that Myles Jury might be maturing. You know, he's getting closer to 30 now, and we've seen Jury since he's a kid. Let's not forget about the guy that, you know, beat MJ's ass coming off the Tough Show when he honestly, people thought he had no business being in that fight. And personally, how I see them how they match up, I think Chad Mendes, you know, I know the pictures look real nice right now. I know he's got a six-pack and he looks, you know, juiced and ripped out of his mind, but mentally and chin-wise, because let's be honest here, Frankie Edgar knocked him out in space. You know what I'm saying? And with Myles Jury's a 5'10", 5'11" guy with a 73-inch reach. He's 6 feet, really, because, I mean,
he's 6 feet.
Because Rick Glenn's 6 feet, and he was, like, taller than Rick Glenn.
So, 6'1".
Like, Myles Jury uses range against 5'10" and 6 foot guys. You know what I'm saying? Myles Jury ranges guys like those up. And now he's fighting a 5'6" guy who hasn't fought in 2 years, coming off the steroids, who comes up short a lot against 5'6" and 5'7" guys like Frankie Edgar. He was coming up short in that fight, and he got knocked out by Frankie Edgar out in space.
Knocked out cold. Dead.
Stiff. Cold. And now, he's off the 3-year layoff. Not 1 year, 2 years. It's 2.5, 3 years, something like that. He bounced out the game as far as I'm concerned. He started his own hunting company. I'm watching these videos. I mean, to be honest, he seems like more he's interested in hunting than he is Myles Jury. So, he's more interested in hunting and fishing. So I already see that foot out the door for my boy Mini Mendes. He can act like, he's acting like he's on the, but let's be honest here. We known him, TJ, just look at Josh Emmett. We know that camp's been, filled with steroid abuse. So, Guido Canetti, Sage, like, come on now, But I think Myles Jury is going to come out here. I think Chad Mendes will be a step behind. I think he is going to be timid to get hit. People are saying he's going to be able to bail himself on the takedowns. Don't forget my boy Myles Jury is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and a high-level Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Just put it this way, on Tough, when they needed to get guys ready for the mat game of Chiesa, they called my boy Jury, you know what I'm saying? Jury, come tap out my boy Vic 100 times real quick. So, I think that, if Chad does take him down, Chad's not a guy that passes guard. Chad's a guy that lays in guard and tries to rest. That's his rest position. You put your head on the chest against Myles Jury, a high-level black belt. He's been a black belt for a while, too. He ain't just got his black belt. Like, Jury's been a black belt for years. The Jury Jiu-Jitsu thing, you know what I'm saying? So I think Myles Jury can attack him off his back and sweep him. I think that if they grapple and they get back up to the feet, I expect that body to be getting teeped in. I expect Chad Mendes already with the cardio problems with the steroids and 3 years ago. I think the cardio problems are going to come back out. I see when those teeps start hitting that gut and when that chin gets touched up from range, and let's be honest here, the guy's a sucker for a flying knee. Jury, I feel like Jury's going to have the performance of his career, that performance that, we all thought he was going to have back years ago. I think he's going to live up to everyone's expectations for once. And, the guy trains with the hardest hitter in the division in Jeremy Stevens every day. He trains with a national champion wrestler in Caldwell every day. I think he's going to be prepared, and I think he's going to butcher Chad Mendes.
So, shout out to my boy Mini Mendes, because I've really been entertained by those video vlogs he's been putting out. I've been learning about how to, season my pork, and you know what I'm saying?
He's got a foot out the door. Start your own cooking show.
Bro, I've been learning a lot from his cooking shows, and something else that I learned from his blogs? He said that, I kind of knew this by watching the fight, but he was like, dude, I was surprised that Frankie barely hit me with anything that hard, and it rung my bell, and I went out cold. So I felt like I needed some time off. But here's the thing, Chad. The chin doesn't recover, my friend. And if we're going to do something to help your chin recover, you better get back on the steroids or something. Get something that helps you recover faster. Because I don't know if you saw that fight between Vanderlei Silva and Brian Stann. You remember how Vanderlei Silva, you hit him one time, he goes down, he goes out cold. All of a sudden, when he was on his supplement plan against Brian Stann, he gets dropped 100 times, he gets back up 101 times. So, as long as Chad's not on the same supplements that Vanderlei was on in that fight, I just don't see how his chin can be magically repaired. He already had cardio issues back in the day. That's why he lost the Aldo fight. But, Aldo at the time was the best pound-for-pound fighter or something like that. John Jones really is. But, we'll give him a little credit. But, look, it's just a different era of featherweight. And it comes down to if Chad can hold him down for 3 straight rounds. I think in the first round he can get a takedown or two, but I think that Myles making him scramble, Myles getting back up to his feet, I think all that stuff's going to gas out Chad Mendes. I think that Myles is going to throw that teep to the body and start to poke the air out of that soft, fat frame. And eventually I think it's going to be a left hook KO. I think this could be the best performance of Myles Jury's career. If Chad Mendes comes off this 3-year layoff, not just a 3-year layoff, but a 3-year, steroid suspension, and he just got knocked the fuck out 2 times in a row his last 2 fights, and he comes out here, he overcomes all that and beats Myles Jury, then hats off, you deserve your place back in the top 15, but, the sport doesn't really work that way, and I think the days of being a 5'6" featherweight are long gone, my man.
Fighting these wrestler boxers.
You see what's happening with Dennis Bermudez. That's what a 5'6" featherweight looks like these days.
Look at the rankings right now. Calvin Kattar is number 15. You know what I'm saying? Imagine him in the cage with Mini Mendes. But there's guys out here listening to this right now that
they don't understand.
So, unfortunately, so it is what it is. But hopefully, we'll see him fight on Saturday.
I'm really looking forward to this. I personally think Myles is going to put him away. I was more interested in the plus 210 than I am the plus 130. I kind of don't like giving up 80 cents of value, but it is what it is, man. I think action's coming in on him for a reason. I don't feel safe betting on the same side as the entire public, because these big Vegas casinos weren't built on everyone being on the same side, but I completely understand the Mendes fade because, he's got all the ingredients to be faded. So I'm going to go with Myles Jury here for the upset. And next up, also in the featherweight division, we got Dennis Bermudez. He's minus 250. The comeback on Rick Glenn is plus 210. Now, it's another case where the 5'6" featherweight's taking on the 6' tall featherweight. But the thing is, my boy Rick Glenn is slow as fuck. But Bermudez always finds a way to lose. So which way you going?
Yeah, Bermudez is like a 32-year-old trying to fight like a 22-year-old. The guy's got no pacing. I mean, just watch the zombie fight. He comes out like a fucking cannon about 2 minutes in, tired, knocked out, And that's not the first time he's done. I mean, this guy's got an extensive history of getting dropped in fights. I mean, dating back to Tommy Hayden, dating back to Matt Grice, dating back to Holloway. The guy gets dropped.
Diego Brandao.
The guy gets dropped in pretty much every fight because he consistently runs himself into the ground. He doesn't change his approach. Really, I mean, like I said, he's a 32-year-old still trying to fight like that 22-year-old he once was on Tough. That beat my boy Jimmy Rivera.
He's a long guy.
And
Max Holloway.
I still respect Bermudez because I still respect him though because the guy's he's one of those max effort guys, and those max effort guys, they win a lot, but not him. Those max effort guys, I put like Elias or for example, Benavidez. I know he lost to Sergio, but I mean you saw that effort. You saw that effort, like motherfuckers going in for it. So I've kind of put Bermudez in that category. He's gonna fucking try to win this fight. He's gonna go for it. The thing with Glenn is that range. He's 6 foot, even though Rick Glenn really doesn't use range. Rick Glenn's he's kind of like he's actually a boxer. That's what his base is, to be honest. He's really not like a wrestler. Like a lot of people think he's a wrestler. He's a boxer, actually. And, he's not good at anything, but he's good enough to keep his job, and he's good enough to, seal off these wins against these young guys like Gavin Tucker and these frauds like Felipe Novair. The thing is... Bermudez keeps finding a way to lose. The Elkins fight, we were thinking there's no way he gets out wrestled by Elkins. Guess what? He got out wrestled by Elkins. The Philly fight, everyone thought he was going to take Philly down. Philly's taking him down. So, I'm seeing a steady decline in Bermudez just physically, more physically than mentally. Mentally, I still think he's there. I think he's a max effort guy. But physically, like I said, he's trying to fight like a 22-year-old, and he's gassing himself out, which leaves him prone to these flash knockdowns, which then he gets stuck out in space fighting, these long guys like Feely, like Elkins, and, he's falling behind on points, and then he loses a decision, and then, he complains, So, who do you lose? Oh, yeah, Zombie. As far as Rick Glenn goes, the plus 200, do I agree with it? No, I understand why, because Rick Glenn, skill-wise... He's a guy that, he really capitalizes on you running yourself into the ground or, gassing out or quitting or just being a pussy like Felipe Novair. So, Bermudez, I don't think...
Male nurse?
Exactly. Bermudez, I don't think he's a pussy by any means, but I do think he runs himself into the ground and he just keeps finding a way to lose, man. And, by the way, that camp that Bermudez comes from, they ain't been looking too hot lately. I know my boy LaFleur got his win over... Garcia a few weeks ago, but I don't know if you saw that performance my boy Chris Wade put up in PFL.
What were the odds on that one?
He was like minus 750. And that's my boy Bermudez's best friend right there. So, and I've been seeing a steady.
They ain't associated with Randy or.
No, Randy trains like
cross train. That's not the official
not
gym.
The gym. That's not the gym. No. Randy's at Andre and Gregor Gillespie's gym.
Okay.
But that gym, they ain't been looking too hot lately. But I still respect Bermudez's effort. But something tells me that he's gonna do it again. Something tells me that he's gonna get off to a good start and leap in with some big shots on Rick Glenn. But we know Rick Glenn doesn't give any fucks and will eat every last one of those shots. We saw that fight against Dunham, his fight with Gavin Tucker, his last fight with Jury. I'm not going to put that much stock into the Jury fight because, like I mentioned before, what I thought about Jury, I think Jury's, hitting that prime. And, Rick Glenn was just confused out in space against Jury. He had no idea what to do with that movement and that teep and that flying knee and the jiu-jitsu. Jury was just on a completely different level. But Bermudez is a habitual gasser out. He's a gas outer. You know what I'm saying? He finds a way to make things close. And he's been doing it for a while. So I think there's a lot of value on Rick Glenn. Does he have the skills? To actually do it, that's definitely a good question. But I think that Bermudez is just going to walk into something. I think he's going to get off to a good start. And you know how Rick Glenn dropped Gavin Tucker with that left hand? I think at some point Bermudez is going to get a little tired. And then I think Rick Glenn's going to capitalize, moving forward with either a body kick to really, drain Bermudez and to get him starting to shoot sloppy, or catch him flash style and, just build up a lead on points and take the next 2 rounds. So, I'm going to go for the upset with my boy Rick Glenn. I think there's a value at plus 210. I think it should be like plus 130.
Dennis Bermudez is like the opposite of Niko Price, because when Dennis Bermudez, up until the point where he loses, he's looking really damn good. When Niko Price, up until the point where he wins, he's looking like shit. But the difference is Niko Price finds a way to win, Dennis Bermudez finds a way to lose. And I don't know what it is. I can't explain it. Winners win and losers lose. And Dennis Bermudez gets dropped every single fight. I really don't know why. Oh, it's because his chin sucks. That's why.
His chin sucks and he has no cardio management.
He's. I mean, we can talk about his leg kicks and his blast double and his overhand right. The whole bit. He's got the same shit he's had for the last fucking 5 years. But Rick Glenn's super slow, super unathletic, but he's super tough too, and he's long for the weight class. And I think if he can weather this early storm, he can come out here and potentially finish Dennis Bermudez or take over late. So he's just gotta make Dennis run himself into the ground, which Dennis is really damn good at doing. So. Yeah, I mean, I can see Bermudez finally getting his first win in a while because Rick Glenn just ain't that good. But, Rick Glenn will find a way to win at some point because Bermudez will hand it to him because Bermudez, that's what he's known for. Bermudez is the way better fighter, by the way, but, he was the way better fighter than a couple of these guys that he's lost to as well. So, that doesn't mean shit. I'm going to go with Rick Glenn for an upset. Co-main event of the evening. We got Sage Northcutt. He's minus 130. The comeback on Zach Otto's plus 110. What are you thinking, man? It's another Sage Northcutt fight.
Go first.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
So I think that my boy Super Sage Northcutt is still a fraud. I think that just because he had that performance against Mitchell Quinones, we picked Quinones, but we were wrong. Quinones is a 45er, and he didn't want no part of Sage. But then you saw what happened when Sage went in there with that French jobber, his last fight with Thibaut Goudy. I know it was in Texas. I know Sage is from Texas. I know Texas judging is notoriously shitty, 30-26 Bosch. So, you know what I'm saying? I think if that was in Vegas, if that was anywhere else, I think my boy Thibaut Goudy might have actually edged that because, when you looked at the fight metric stats and it's saying that...
he actually did kind of land 11 strikes.
When you look at the fight metric stats and it says that he only landed 11 strikes, that's a complete joke. He dropped him about 4 times in that fight.
He didn't drop him 4 times at all.
He took him down a couple times as well.
But they didn't do shit with him.
I mean, what are you supposed to do? Like, drop the guy and then hammer all these fists on him and you drop him. Get your points for that. You know what I'm saying? I think that Sage Northcutt, he's a very athletic guy. He's a good athlete. And some of these guys, he's just faster than, he's stronger than, he can squeak out these fights. But, I mean, the dude... Once he steps up, that's when he gets exposed. The question is Zach Otto that step up or not? I mean, I've seen Cody Pfister take down Sage Northcutt with barely any effort at all. I've seen Brian Barberena tap out Sage Northcutt with chokes that aren't locked in. I've seen Mickey Gall, who was 3-0 at the time, come in there, drop Sage Northcutt, and choke him out. And, also... the Thibaut Goudy fight, that wasn't very good either. So the only time Sage Northcutt's looked good, in my opinion, were the Mitchell Quinones fight and the Francisco Trevino fight. And now he's stepping up. He's 0-2 at welterweight. He's taking on another welterweight. But the thing with Zach Otto, he's a physically skilled guy. Wasn't he a D1 football player? Yeah, so, he's a physically skilled guy. He went the distance with Serginho in Brazil, lost the split, but, he's still a very tough guy. I think, Otto is kind of a bully. If you stand up to him, you can mentally break him. The thing is, I don't know if Sage Northcutt can stand up to him. This is a battle between 2 frontrunners, actually. It's kind of interesting. I'm going to go with Zach Otto just because I've never seen him tap out the shit that's not locked in. I don't see him get dropped every single fight. I've only seen him get dropped against one of the hardest hitters in the division, Li Jingliang, who I think would also knock out Sage Northcutt. I know Otto wasn't really knocked out in that fight, by the way. I'm aware. I'm aware he had enough when he felt the power of the Leech's hands, but I don't think that's going to happen here against Sage Northcutt. I think he's tougher than the kid, and I think he finds a way to break him, so I hope, right? I'm going to go with Zach Otto here for the upset.
Yeah, at first I was thinking Otto was going to be, a good option. But the thing is, when you really look into it, I do question if Otto's tough enough, because I feel like the reason why he's 3-2, even though those two losses are, to good guys, I felt like the Serginho one was super in reach, but I felt like he was a little bit too afraid to get touched on that chin. And, when he fought Berkman, I know that was his debut, but let's be honest here, like that fight was close.
Berkman beat Felder.
They were operating on the same speed frequency, and not to mention this guy got finished by Jacob Volkman a couple years ago as well. So
badly.
They were operating on that same frequency, and Otto. He's his nickname's the Barbarian, but I mean, let's be honest there. He's a point tipper. He's a tipper and runner, and I already saw I faded Sage against a tipper and runner in Michel Quinones, and I saw a guy that tries to throw, jab, low kick. I already saw what Sage did to that guy.
That's a 45. This is a welterweight.
Yeah, Sage was cutting weight to 55 now. Like Sage, look, I think Sage is a pussy. I think he's a fraud, but I ain't betting on Sage. If I'm taking a side, it's going to be Otto, and I need to know that this guy's tough enough, and my gut tells me that he's not, because when he fought Li Jingliang, look, Sage didn't fight Li Jingliang, so that's irrelevant. He got hit on the chin with one shot off a low kick, and he quit. He went home. He didn't want to be there. I mean, plain and simple. The guy's eyes were open. He was rolling around. He quit. He went home. Sage Northcutt has quit several times, but the thing is, when Sage Northcutt lost, Barberena, the kid was 19 years old, fighting fucking Brian Barberena. 19 fucking years old.
Shit wasn't locked in.
19 fucking years old, though, bro.
So what?
He was 19 fighting fucking Barberena. And look, I'll tell you why Barberena won that fight.
Holloway was 19 fighting Dustin Poirier.
And he got his ass beat.
He didn't quit.
What do you mean he didn't quit? He quit.
That shit was locked in.
Just put it this way, some other guys wouldn't have tapped. But but the thing is, the reason why Barberena won that fight is because Barberena doesn't give a fuck. Barberena has proven several times that he'll eat a shot and he doesn't give a fuck. He'll be bloody. And Sage was teeing off on Barberena in that first round. Just that Barberena, the workman, grizzly vet that he is, stayed in there and fucking wasn't afraid to get hit and, got Sage to make a mistake. And Barberena hit him with a nice trip, actually. 19 years old, he lost to Barberena. Okay, I still think he's a pussy, don't get me wrong. So then the fight with Marine, my fear with Sage is, like, the longer you keep letting him get through these tough fights like Marine, like 3 rounds with Quinones, you keep letting him build this ring experience. They keep letting, that's who he's fighting. They were tough fights, bro. I mean, fucking the guys Otto's beating, none of them are in the fucking UFC. Like, he fucking beat Berkman and Powell, and he arguably lost to fucking Berkman. Like, and Kichi Kinomoto, like, fucking, which also went to split decision. And I always feel like the longer you keep giving this kid fucking ring experience and you keep letting them fucking get through these adversities in the cage, because look, the T-Bow fight, I'll tell you why Sage got his hand raised, because he fucking wanted it more, because T-Bow was too much of a little pussy. That's why he won. T-Bow didn't want. He wasn't tough enough, plain and simple. T-Bow fucking, I wouldn't say it was, Sage definitely hit his knees hit the ground, but, Sage is a pussy, no, 100%. But what happened when they got back up into the feet? Sage picked up T-Bow Gotti off the air and dumped him and stole the round back. I don't give a fuck if it was in Texas or not. You know exactly where you're fighting. You know what you have to do. You have to convincingly beat this motherfucker. And he didn't, because he wasn't tough enough, because the French
One guy got dropped 4 times.
He didn't get dropped 4 times, firstly. He got dropped like once, but
once, yeah.
It's all good, because the second drop you're referring to, he tried to duck under for a takedown, and like T-Bow just kind of crushed him and he went to his back. But, he dealt with it, and he got through it. You know what I'm saying? He got through a tough moment. Now, Otto's gone through a couple tough moments, but he's also quit in a couple tough moments as well. He's also quivered away in some tough moments, because that Serginho fight was in reach. And, we can sit here and say, Serginho, this and that. His UFC record's great and all, but Serginho quits in the 3rd round of every fight, and he gasses out every fight. And he's 38 years old, or fucking 35, 36, 37. And, Sage is still a 23-year-old fucking athletic specimen who's fast, way faster than Otto, in my opinion. Now, the grappling, is Otto. I seen in that Kushi Kunamoto fight, he definitely won the grappling exchanges. They were going a little back and forth, but, he was able to get on top just right at the end of the rounds. It was a great win, in my opinion. But I'm just not convinced that he's tough enough. I could so see Otto being a step behind. I don't like the way Otto's talking about the fight. He's acting like Sage is an easy fight. And if he comes out here and, Otto's about that life, props to him. But I don't think he is. I think Sage is going to run away from him. I think that Sage is, like I said, you keep giving him more ring experience. I feel like they're giving him these guys for a specific reason. You know what I'm saying? I feel like they gave him Zach Otto for a specific reason. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously they want to keep building the kid up. Not that that matters or anything, but I just feel like he'll be able to pull his same bullshit on Zach Otto. I don't think it's a time. I think it might be the next one. I don't think it's a time to fade him. But if Zach Otto does his job here, and congrats to him. I just think Sage is going to be a little too physical, and I think mentally Otto's going to start breaking as when Sage gets up. I think Sage is going to get to an early lead. I think Otto's going to not check out, but I think he's going to break. I think he's going to be a little frustrated that this young kid that he's been talking shit about
is still in there.
Is still in there and whooping his ass, and I think he's going to slowly break. So I'm gonna take my boy Sage Northcutt here,
my boy Sage
even though he's a little bitch. Actually, man, I'm not gonna call him a bitch because look, I know it's gouty and all, but look, he got through it. That's something that we were saying he couldn't do. You know what I'm saying? So he's proven me wrong.
Got finished in 30 seconds by Timu Fakela.
Goody also dropped OAM. So, Goody hits hard, bro. And but the fact is he got through it, and that's one thing I've been saying that he couldn't do. So he's proven me wrong. He's been able to tough it out. That's the opponent that was in front of him. He gutted it out. Otto has a tough time gutting things out. You know what I'm saying? Otto has to be at a specific pace. I don't really think
he's a bully.
He really ain't no bully to me. He's a fake bully to me. I think, but that's just my opinion. I think he's a guy that, he really can't box on the inside, but I think he's a point striker that likes to throw low kicks at the end of every combination. I could see Sage countering that with the right hand and stunning Otto. Maybe not finishing him, but, I think Sage is going to weasel this one out. I think he's got a little weasel in him. Sage 29-28.
Okay. Main event of the evening. We got Junior Zingano dos Santos. He's minus 175. The comeback on Blagoy. Ivanov is plus 155. Now, Ivanov's coming in here with a stellar record. Also a little bit padded. I mean, he was, beating the Jared Rochalts and the Cuddly Bears of the world. Now he's got to fight Junior Zingano. But how much does my boy Zingano have left in the tank, Shaq?
Yeah, it's a typical World Series of fighting guy coming over. And, if you want to judge him based on his fights in the World Series, then you need to do your homework because we know that these World Series guys, some of their fights over there, they kind of look like shit, like Gaethje, losing the first 2 rounds against Esquibel. I know he's also has a losing record over here, but, his 3 fights have been some of the most entertaining. David Branch, the guy was struggling. He couldn't even finish Vinny fucking Magalesh.
He can finish my head.
He couldn't finish Luis Taylor. He couldn't fucking, he's barely scraping shit out over there. But he comes over here. He beat Jocko Maheta. He's 2-1, and he's about to fight Jacare. You know what I'm saying? And then Marlon Moraes, he's struggling with Josh Hill and Reddinghouse over there, but fucking.
He's knocking out Jimmy Rivera.
But now he's knocking out Jimmy Rivera. So, I feel like those World Series guys, their careers in World Series, they're always big favorites. They're minus 800s and fucking minus 1,000. So you put them in the fight where it's like, just don't lose. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to see a little lackluster but lackluster performances because it's just get the win and let's not fucking give this guy, any chance to fluke KO you. That's pretty much how a lot of those guys are over there. And we're seeing them come over here and put in work. So, I think Blagoy is going to look a little better. Do I think he's a future champion? No, but I think this is a good debut to come in on because JDS, he's a perfect example of the damage meter. You know how we say a heavyweight has 9 lives, and he might have an extra life for this one. The thing is, about half of those lives have been ruined. The 2 Kane fights, the Stipe fight, both the Stipe fights. Overeem. And, I see a lot of people saying this fight's going to be like the Ben Rothwell fight. Ben Rothwell was a good run. He definitely beat his ass. I just watched it, actually. He definitely schooled Ben up, point fighted him, jabbed his body up. But the thing is, Ben Rothwell ain't no fucking technical striker. Ben Rothwell is a sit back, fucking, try to get you to come in and land one shot guy and or choke you out. So, I think it was a case of, the people built Ben Rothwell up to be this guy that he wasn't. Um, and then, the second he fought Stipe, it went right back to reality. And, JDS thinks it was actually a fluke. He thinks that Stipe landed a lucky punch. So, this guy ain't thinking straight. So, personally, I don't think JDS will ever see the old JDS again. Not saying that he can't get the win, but I don't think we'll ever see the old JDS ever again. And, like we said, these guys with that damage meter building up, their whole game starts to diminish. And Blagoy, he's got nothing to lose here. I mean, shit, he's fighting the number fucking top 10 all-time great heavyweight that, let's be honest here, his chin is seriously diminished, and Blagoy's chin is fresh. I know his chin's probably never been tested at this level, but I mean, in terms of heavyweight damage, Blagoy's young, he's fresh, he's looking at JDS like a fucking steak. And one thing I like about Blagoy gets his job done a lot, by any means necessary. And, the fact that he never got fluke KO'd out there on that World Series scene, because he's in the heavyweight division, that's where the fluke KOs happen. So, I think Blagoy's going to come out here. I think he's going to back into the fence like he does. He's got a big belly, but I think his counter punches against the fence are really good. I think JDS is going to, think he's got a good angle on him. And the next thing you know, I think JDS is going to be unconscious on the canvas sleep. I think that JDS will be winning until he backs Blagoy up against that fence. And then when they exchange, Blagoy will land that right hook, left straight combo, and JDS will be asleep. So I got Blagoy for the upset. I wouldn't be shocked if JDS boxed him up, but like I said, I don't think we're ever going to see that guy again. I think that guy is long gone. I think this guy's going to be a little timid. He hasn't fought in a while. He's already been timid, like his last fucking Overeem fight, the Stipe fight, the Ben Rothwell fight. Congrats to him. But I think Blagoy is going to pull off this upset and cashes as a plus 155.
It's going to be interesting, man. JDS, when he was on his run, man, he was, in my opinion, the greatest heavyweight of all time. Not in terms of title defenses, but just in terms of resume. I mean, UFC debut against Werdum, rode that all the way until his title shot with Kane, knocked out Kane in the first round, defended the belt against Mir, beat Stipe along the way. So, JDS has beat the who's who. He's beat everyone there is to beat, basically. But, man, he's taken so much damage. Those two Kane fights were super hard to watch. And, JDS used to be the guy you could go out there, hit him with a baseball bat, and he'll keep walking forward. My boy Kane had to call in backup. My boy Kane had to call in the mat. He had to slam JDS on his head on the mat, for him to get a knockout because he couldn't knock him out on his own. But at this point, those days are long gone now. My boy Zingano is taking canvas naps on the reg. But Blagoy doesn't have this kind of experience at all. I know he's coming into the UFC with a serious record. I know he's beat some guys in World Series of Fighting, but this is a completely different level. I'm not convinced he's got the pressure style to beat Junior Dos Santos. If you're going to beat Junior, you have to pressure him. I know Overeem kind of sat back, but at that point, Overeem was on his little run, to his title shot. But aside from that, all the guys that have beaten JDS have pressured him. Kane pressured the fuck out of him both times. Stipe pressured the fuck out of him both times. I know JDS officially won the first time, but, a lot of people thought Stipe might have won it, but bottom line, Stipe won the second time, and he won it via pressure. So I think Blagoy is kind of slow in comparison to a guy like Stipe and a guy like Kane. But at the same time, heavyweights, he lands that one big shot, and Junior does have a diminishing chin. Junior is coming off a USADA suspension. Don't be surprised if Junior takes a nap on that canvas. But I do think that there is a skill gap here. I think Junior is the better guy. I think Junior can pop that jab, and I think he can have a similar performance to the Ben Rothwell fight. The difference here is that Blagoy is better than Ben Rothwell for sure. He's more well-rounded. He's not more experienced in the UFC, but he's definitely a bigger threat in my opinion. So Junior is going to have to move around a little bit in this fight. And it being 5 rounds actually makes me think that Blagoy has more of a chance to catch him along the way than if it was 3 rounds. But all that said, just based on the tape, I think Junior is the better fighter, and I think he finally gets another UFC win here. So I'm going to go with Junior to win this main event. Well, now we got to hit up Kyle Marley for the Big Marley Minute. And joining us now on the Big Marley Minute is Big Marley himself. Kyle, how's it going?
Good, man. DC killed it. Glad I had him as a bet, and I'm ready to continue. Let's get some more money this weekend.
Man, the champ. So, where does he stack among the all-time greats, in your opinion?
He's definitely up there. Top 3, but John Jones is the greatest of all time. It's not even close, steroids or not. Everyone he fought was on steroids back in his day, so I don't hold him against him. He's the greatest I've ever seen. Can't wait for him to come back. John Jones.
That's right. Let him know, Kyle. Let him know. So, speaking of the greatest of all time, there was a time when this guy named Junior Zingano was on this run. He knocked out Fabricio Werdum in his UFC debut. He rode that momentum all the way to a title win over Cain Velasquez. He defended that title. He beat guys like Stipe Miocic along the way. I mean, JDS is one of the best of all time. But he's taking on this newcomer who's coming into the UFC with a serious record and some serious hype. Which way you leaning?
I'm leaning with the former champ here. JDS is honestly one of my favorite fighters. How can you not like this guy? Especially if you hear him talk, he just sounds like the nice guy of all time, but super violent fighter. And I just don't see how this little guy is going to come in here and beat Junior Dos Santos unless he knocks him out. So I do have interest in both guys for that reason, because maybe JDS is fading, doesn't have the chin he used to, and his opponent, Ivanov, is only $7,500 on DraftKings. So if he's going to win by knockout, he's going to pay that off. So I do have interest in him, but I just have way more interest in JDS. He's going to have the height reach advantage. He's going to have the boxing advantage. I think he's going to have the power advantage as well. Great wrestling defense. He should be able to keep this on the feet. I think this is Junior Dos Santos' fight to win, or Junior Dos Santos' fight to lose, however you want to say it. And I would rather spend the $8,700 on him. I have a hard time seeing him not paying that off with 5 rounds to work with. But overall, this is one of my favorite fights to target. I think if you're making GPPs, you got to throw this in there. And it's probably going to be on the winning lineup, whoever wins.
I mean, if you could pick one weight class to take the aging fighter in, it's got to be heavyweight, man, because it seems like these guys have 9 lives.
Yeah, no doubt. And it only takes one punch with those guys. So even if he has faded, he could hit that one punch before his chin gets tested, and he can win that way. So, yeah, you're right. Heavyweights are the spot to take these older guys.
So before we talk about the next fight, just because we're on the topic of heavyweights, I got to know your opinion. I got to know Dr. Marley's informed opinion. What's the deal with Francis Ngannou?
I mean, Dr. Marley is my wife, so I can't go into those details, but I have no idea, dude. I was thinking that was an easy fight for him as well. Maybe Miocic changed him, man. He stole his confidence from him, and maybe he just doesn't believe in himself. I don't know. I think he will get it straightened out. Maybe he was just worried about Lewis. I mean, if I was fighting Lewis, I'd be scared too. So I'm not sure, dude, but I'm hoping he comes back better than ever, because it would be a shame to see that talent go to waste.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just crazy to think about my boy Ngannou sitting at the shrink's office on that couch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no kidding.
So this co-main event, we got Sage Northcutt taking on Zach Otto. A lot of us talk about fading Sage, but fading Sage doesn't have a very good long-term record. But the times that he has lost, and even in some of his wins, he's been exposed along the way with his chin issues, his submission defense, his takedown defense. You think Zach Otto's going to be the third guy to expose that?
I think he very well could be. I think he does have that clear path to victory, if that's the way he wants to take it, man. If he wants to go with that wrestling game plan, he can either win via decision or submission. But I think he's going to want to strike with Sage, because you build your name off of a name like Sage Northcutt. And if you can knock Sage Northcutt out, his fans become your fans maybe. So I think that's the way Otto is going to go with this fight. And he's going to try and stand with Sage. And I think he's going to be losing on the feet. And his wrestling is going to be his backup game plan. So I'm actually leaning with Sage in this one. 22 years old, man. This kid's going to improve every single fight. So I think his takedown defense might be a little bit better if Otto does go with that game plan, and maybe he can keep it on the feet. 170 pounds, this freak with muscles on muscles, could knock out anybody, I think. So I'm going to go ahead and lean with the young kid, take Sage Northcutt with the hype train surrounding him. And I'm hoping that he has a lot of haters picking Otto here, and that's going to make him over-owned in GPP. So I would like Northcutt to be a little under-owned, but I don't see that happening with his name.
So Bermudez is taking on Rick Glenn. It's interesting, man, because Dennis Bermudez, I mean, he's a talented guy. He's got skills, but for some reason, he always finds a way to lose these days. I don't know what it is. I mean, he's a guy that beat Max Holloway back in the day, even though it was a bullshit decision. He still got that win on his resume. But lately, he's what 2-5 in his last 7. So you think he's gonna snap that skid here against the very tough Rick Glenn?
This is one of those fights where I like both sides in GPPs. You can't trust Bermudez's chin, so for that reason, I like Rick Glenn at a cheap price of 7,200. But at the same time, Bermudez is the type of fighter you want to target in DraftKings. He's going to go for takedowns. He might even shoot for 10 takedowns in a fight, and that's what I like to see. I am going to lean with him to get the win, so I would like him a little bit more than Glenn, but this is a fight that I would be using both guys if I'm making multiple lineups. If I was making one lineup, I'm not exactly sure what I would do. I might just fade it since I'm not sure, but it's one of my favorite fights to target if you are multi-entering.
So the battle of the moms, we got Marion Reneau taking on Kat Zingano. I mean, dude, the 41-year-old Reneau, she doesn't lose a lot, and Kat Zingano, she's only fought the elite of that division. So which way are you going?
So I think this is a tough one, and I've gone back and forth a few times on that one. So I think, honestly, what I'm going to do is just side with what I would want to happen on DraftKings, and I think Zingano has the higher ceiling with her takedown ability and aggressive pace that I'm just going to go with her. They're both 8,100, so honestly, I'm just going to go ahead and 50-50 this fight. Anything I make with Zingano, I'll make with Reneau as well. But if you're making one lineup, Zingano, I think, could be a good play for it. At 8,100, if she wins, I think she's going to easily get 10x that salary. And she should be the one going for takedowns, looking for that top game. So I do kind of like Zingano. I'm just really not confident in her. So if I was making one lineup, I probably would just go ahead and fade this fight since I'm not confident in either one of them. But again, it's another one I like to target in multi-entering. So maybe throw in one lineup of each of them with your favorite fighters, and that way at least you got the winner in a GPP.
Yeah, I mean, Marion, the thing that's interesting about her, she gets taken down every single fight, but somehow she finds a way to come back and win. So even if Zingano were to take a loss, she could still score a lot of points with those takedowns like you mentioned.
Yeah, no, I mean, and both chicks don't like going to decision. They've both finished most of their fights, so $8,100 either way, you would think that the winner is going to pay off that price tag. So I do like this fight a lot. My only problem is that I'm not confident in either fighter, so it's making me not want to put them in lineups, if that makes sense. But if you have the money to blow, man, and you can waste some lineups, I recommend just duplicating lineups and using both of them.
So Alejandro Perez, I know at the betting window he's been amazing. I mean, the guy wins basically every single fight he's been in, minus the one fluke against Patrick Williams a while back. And Eddie Wineland, obviously the name Wineland, he's the former WEC champ, so everyone respects him. A lot of dog action has come in that way. You think Eddie Wineland's the one to stop the streak of Alejandro Perez?
Man, honestly, I don't really think he's going to be the one to stop the streak. But with all that dog line movement that has come in, I would rather have Wineland on DraftKings. I would rather save the $2,000 and just go ahead and pick Wineland rather than Perez, because Perez doesn't have a high ceiling with the way he fights. At $9,100, it's going to be hard for him to get 91 points unless he gets a finish, really. So I would lean Wineland in this matchup on DraftKings, but my pick is going to be Perez.
So Darren Elkins is taking on Alex Volkanovski. Darren Elkins has the most underdog wins in UFC featherweight history. He's constantly disrespected, and he always comes through as the dog. I know you remember that Mirsad Bektic fight. And once again, he's a plus 255 dog. So now the question is, do you think it's justified in this spot, or do you think he's being overlooked again?
Yeah, I do think Volkan is a title contender, really. And Elkins, I mean, he's got more heart than anybody. The guy will never quit. I just don't see how he hangs with Volkan here. I think his best shot at victory would be to take that early ass beating and end up gassing Volkan out and finishing him late. I just don't see that happening again. And Volkan should be better everywhere here. So he's the highest priced guy on the card for a reason, in my opinion. I think he could pay that salary off. So Volkan's really my guy in this fight. I like him a lot more.
So Randy Brown's taking on Niko Price. You know we got a lot of respect for both those guys. They both came out and cashed max bets in both of their last fights. And you know for a fact, even though it's a pick'em, the winner of this fight is probably going to win pretty brutally and in pretty spectacular fashion. So which way you leaning?
Man, I don't know if it's actually going to end that way. I can see this going to a decision. Which is making me also not want to put these guys in as many lineups because I think it's going to be a pretty close fight, maybe a split decision. So I'm just not confident in putting either guy in a lot of lineups. I think I would prefer Niko Price because he is cheaper. I think he's got the higher ceiling. But if I was making one lineup, I doubt I would use this. And if I was making 20 lineups, I'd probably want both of these guys, but I would prefer more Price for that higher ceiling. Cash games, man, I'm not confident in either one of these, so I probably wouldn't use them.
So last but not least, Jodie Esquibel's taking on Jessica Aguilar. And you know Jodie was plus 145 the first time. She's minus 145 here the second time. I don't expect either of them to score that many points. I know who I'm picking as a winner. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I don't expect either one of these chicks to score very high either, so I'm probably going to full fade this fight. If you're going to start any card late, this is probably the one to do it because I just really don't have a lot of interest in this at all. My pick's going to be Jodie. She's going to be younger, probably faster at this point. She'll be able to keep it on the feet. And if she can't keep it on the feet, I think she'll pull out a decision. I think the most likely outcome here is going to be that decision no matter who wins, and I don't see either scoring highly. So I'm going to fade this fight, and I really don't have any interest in watching it, to be honest with you.
Well, Kyle, that's why you are the DraftKings guy for half the battle. Appreciate it, my man. The fans can follow you at Big Marley 3, and Kyle, we'll speak next week. I believe it's time for UFC Hamburg.
Hell yeah, bro. I got my DraftKings article posted, $7.99. All my secrets, only $7.99. So hit me up. Links posted on Twitter. Good luck to you and all the listeners this weekend.
All right, man. We'll speak soon.
All right, bro. Take care.
You too. Well, Shaq, now we got to talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So what is the fight to watch for UFC Boise?
My fight to watch is going to be Alexander Volkanovski versus Darren Elkins, because if Volkanovski gets this win, he takes out the number 10 guy in the world. Now he's top 10, and now he's 18-1, and now you can put him in there with any of the top guys at featherweight. So, you know, I'm interested to see that fight, to see if he really is this guy that they're building him up to be, because I think he's got the skills, but we know that historically speaking, Darren Elkins wins these type of fights.
I mean, that's absolutely one of the fights to watch because I'm just fucking curious what's going to happen here. I mean, is Alex going to extend that record to 18-1? Is Darren Elkins going to cash 7th time in a row as an underdog? Like, you know, so I'm curious about that. But my fight to watch is Niko Price versus Randy Brown. I think it's a pick'em for a reason. I think that both of these guys have bright futures. I think they're both very exciting guys to watch, and they're both well-rounded as well. So I can't wait to see who gets that one. That's my fight to watch. Well, Shaq, who is your fighter to watch for UFC Boise?
My fighter to watch is going to be Fury Jury. I mean, he gets a chance to take out a legend. And, you know, it's a Lions versus Alpha Male. So, you know, that's a serious. You know, my boy Jeremy's going to be down there. And Dom's going to be cage side giving him advice. So that's a big moment, a Lions versus Alpha Male. And we get to see Chad come back. So we'll see how he's looking off those steroids.
Yeah, I'm very curious about that fight for sure. My fighter to watch is Alejandro Turbo Perez. I mean, this guy's quietly developing one of the best records in the UFC bantamweight division, and now he's got that step up in competition in terms of name value. So if he can come out here and beat a guy like Eddie Wineland, it's just going to propel him into that top 10 of the UFC bantamweight division, give him a big fight next, and for that reason, Alejandro is my fighter to watch. Well, Shaq, we did it. It's going down tomorrow, Saturday, UFC Boise, JDS versus Ivanov, and it's MaxBet season. They can sign up at bestfightpicks.com. They can sign up at maxbetseason.com. They can send us that email at bestfightpicks@gmail.com. And it's time to get the job done on Saturday, my man.
Yes, sir. MaxBet season going down in Boise. We're gonna get the job done. Bounce back from that L last week, and we appreciate all the support we get. And we, like we said, if you guys like us, we like you. So.
100%. So thank you to you guys. Make sure you follow me at Best Fight Picks. Follow Shaq at MMA Genius 05. Follow our Instagram at Best Fight Picks Official. Subscribe to Half the Battle on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Stitcher. Hook up those 5-star reviews on iTunes. Shaq and I will be back next week to break down the next card. So until the next time, let's cash these bets.